Thank you. Thank you. Hi, my name is Elaine Eksvard, and I'm a communication consultant, and I'm a woman. Some people notice that. I had a seminar in Berlin for about 2 years ago, and they found my webpage on a website, and they said, could you teach us about communication? They didn't know I was a woman. And this professor was waiting for Elaine, and I stood right in front of him, and he said, "You're Elaine." And I said, "That's correct. And you're going to teach us about communication?" And I told him, "That's also correct." And he told me, "But you're a woman." And I told him, "That's not correct." No. And that's correct. And what did I find out then? I found out that for him, women are not trustworthy. They're not worth listening to. That's good information. So what did I do? I told him something that would find me more trustworthy in his eyes. So I told him that, you know what? Last year, I had a seminar with Mr. Tony Blair, and he told me the exact same thing. You're a woman, and you're giving a seminar to me, or with me. I'm so glad the future is here. And the professor looked at me and he told me, "Okay, so you're somebody." But the funny thing is, I made him want to listen to me. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm a communication consultant, and I teach people the art of wanting people to listen to you. And the first man I want to show you is Martin Luther King. He's the one who people tell us that we should talk like. You should go to your brothers and sisters and your colleagues and tell them, "I have a dream." There's nothing wrong with the way Martin Luther King spoke, but I think you should find the Martin Luther King in your world. So that's the first question I ask people. Who is Martin Luther King in your world? And in my world, my Martin Luther King was my elementary school teacher, Carola. Carola, she was smoking a pipe. She had long blonde hair, and she had kind of a posh look. And I remember the first week in school, she told us, there she is, and that's me on the top. I hated being on the top. I was the tallest one in the class. Somebody asked me if I was a boy. I think that's not fair. Anyways, the first week, she gave us a great task. She asked us, what do you want to be? What do you want to do for a living when you grow up? I was 7 years old. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And my mother, she's from Brazil, and she's very dynamic and passionate. And she told me, "Elaine, you should go to the suburbs and get inspiration." I grew up in the suburbs. And I went to the first magical place I knew at the time, the candy store. And I stood there for half an hour looking at the female working in the candy store. She had the poster of a president, and she was always eating the candy while she was working, and she had this look. And I was about 7 years old, and I was looking at her thinking, that's the best job in the whole world. And I went back to school, and I had my first presentation. And I stood in front of my class telling all my classmates, when I grow up, I'm going to work at the candy store. Carola, she didn't look too amused. She was actually worried about me. She was smoking her pipe in the back of the classroom. And then she came to me, stood at her knees, she kneeled, and she said, "Elaine, you're not going to work at the candy store. You're going to be an author." I had no idea what that was at the time, but my first best-selling book, Dominion Techniques, I actually dedicated it to my teacher, Carola. Carola knows something that all of us should know, something about personal leadership. She was herself as opposed to a professional robot. A lot of us are professional robots when we work. And I don't know if you met a professional robot. You know, when you go to a store and you want to buy a phone and you meet this salesperson who goes, "Hello," and you feel, "Bye." You don't want to meet a professional robot. You want to meet a person. So my Martin Luther King in my world is Carola. She made me want to listen to what she had to say. So in order to make other people want to listen to you, think about who is Martin Luther King in your world. It doesn't have to be politicians. Actually, I don't think politicians are good communicators at all. Just for the record. So don't be a professional robot, be yourself. That's the best thing you can be. But you have to think about what people think when they see you. I took my first step into communication the year of 2001. That's when I started my first day to my bachelor degree in communication. And I remember sitting at the university waiting for the first speaker. There was about 200 students sitting, listening, well, trying to listen. This tall man went up stage. And he started talking for 10 minutes, and we couldn't hear a word he said. Why? He had a scar across his face. And that was the only thing we could think about. He refused to tell us that he had a scar across his face. He refused to tell us where he got it from, and that was the only thing we could think about. After 10 minutes, he gave up, and he told us, I got this scar in a car accident in the 70s. My name is Bill. And you know what? I never forgot his name. So in order to make people want to listen to you, you have to put your looks in perspective. You need to know what people think when they see you before you say anything. Just like it was when I met this professor in Berlin. I remember when I had a seminar to Swedish television, and once again they were wondering, where is Elaine? Where is the man that we're waiting for? Does Elaine even sound like a man to you? No, not really, but some people think Elaine or something. And they were waiting for Elaine, and I'm so happy about my granddad, Arne. My granddad, he was born in the 20s. And he was kind of rough. He always taught me, if you want men to listen to you, you need to know what the boxers do. And I was like, what do you mean what the boxers do? Well, you know, the boxers, they always jab. Jab? What's the jab? Well, jab, it means that you need to hit a little light just to test the strength of the other person. And that's what we men do all the time. We hit each other verbally, and what you're supposed to do is to hit back. I had no clue about this, did you? Well, probably all men did, but the women, we didn't. So I tried my first jab 6 years ago. I had this seminar for Swedish television, and I was about to have it. And the client was waiting for Elaine, and I was standing in front of him. And he was like, you're Elaine? And I said, yes, I'm Elaine. And he said, wow, that's amazing. And I said, well, yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then he told me, so when were you born? Yesterday? That's a jab. And what did I do? And how about yourself? Polishing your coffin? And his reaction was quite nice. He was like, because then he felt, okay, she's strong enough to handle the presenters of Swedish television. The only thing that happened that I wasn't prepared of was I got another jab, or maybe a knockout, when I started my seminar. I was about to present myself in front of all these people, and this female rose her hand and she said, Elaine, I don't really know why I should listen to you. You're so young. I don't feel motivated. And I don't know about you guys, but have you ever met people who speak with their eyes closed? And that taught me about body language, and I didn't know what to do. She thought I was too young, and maybe she didn't think I was friendly enough. So I tried to smile. Maybe I became this professional robot to her. So I tried to smile. So I just smiled at her, but her eyes were closed. And then I heard myself say, well, you're perfectly right. I'm not as old as you are. And she looked so angry, and I didn't know how to find myself after that. And the other people in the audience started laughing. She didn't. But afterwards, the client came forward to me, and he said, I really like your jabbing. You're giving knockouts sometimes. Maybe you could be our rhetorical expert. And I said, okay. Have you ever heard those nervous laughs? People give them all the time. It's the rhetorical tick that I hear when I coach people how to make people listen to them. The main thing that I need to erase is the nervous laugh. When they try to convince people that they're right and they say, you know, this is really important. It's not a good thing. But in order to handle comments like these, you're too young, you're a female, you're a man or whatever, you need to put yourself in perspective. Is it good or bad to look the way I look? What is your scar when it comes to making people want to listen to what you say? Because people won't hear a word. They will just look at you and they will think either you're trustworthy or you're not. And they'll make the decision. You need to handle it. So personal leadership. One good word that you could remember is copia. I don't really know how to pronounce it. It's Latin. But it means that if you want people to listen, you should study those who are being listened to. What are they doing? Do I speak the way they do, or don't I? When I sit and comment our politicians of Sweden, sometimes I sit with male experts, and one thing I notice that a lot of men take their time in television. There's only one problem when you're in the media. There is no time. But if you take your time, you come across as more trustworthy, as opposed to a lot of female of us. We tend to speak really fast. So what happened? This expert get a question from the journalist, and he goes, there's two ways that we can look at this. The first thing is, and he really took his time, and I'm like, shoot me, this is not, you can't speak this slowly when you're in television. So what did I do? I started speaking really, really fast as a sports commentator. And what happened? I became less trustworthy, because if you speak too fast, it's like you're excusing the message that you want to send people. So don't speak fast. This morning, I was in television again, and I tried to do the opposite. And you know what happened? The journalist asked me a question, I went, and the male expert next to me, he started, blah, 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 blah. Good, right? So what you should do is study those who are being listened to, but don't do it their way. I'm not saying study Martin Luther King and go to your colleagues and say, I have a dream. Study the way he speaks, do it, but do it your way. And maybe sometime you can take their place. It's not a bad thing. And I think I did. Thank you.